Welcome to the Carbonite Jedi, where the Force will be with you always. I hope you're having a wonderful Memorial Day if you live in the United States. And I want to give my respects to everybody that made the ultimate sacrifice that we could live free today. Now, in today's video, I am looking at an article from ScreenRant.com, and it was published 3 days ago, and it says, Star Wars secretly introduced its Force cloning explanation in 2017. And it says, well, let me bring it up so you can follow along. There we go. It says Star Wars has featured Force cloning and will likely continue to do so in future stories, and the perfect explanation was secretly set up in 2017. Now, as you can see, we see the Kaminoans, always have trouble with that name, and their cloning facility, and there's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and there's Ahsoka. So, I wonder if this is like a foreshadowing of something that might be going on in the Ahsoka series. Let's read. It says Star Wars has hinted at Force cloning in future stories, and the perfect explanation was secretly introduced as far back as 2017. Emperor Palpatine returned in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker thanks to cloning. And the recent Star Wars TV shows have focused heavily on Imperial cloning projects. The Mandalorian Season 3 finale even confirmed that Moff Gideon wanted Grogu's blood to create Force-sensitive clones of himself, which Palpatine proved is possible. However, Star Wars is to continue exploring the concept of Force cloning, then it must provide a reasonable explanation for how this is possible. And also, I think it was episode 3 in Season 3 of The Mandalorian, where the Doctor was a huge cloner, and he had his mind flayed by the spy so the information wouldn't get out. I shall proceed. Cloning is featured prominently throughout the Star Wars franchise, but is rarely explored in great detail. How exactly Palpatine survived his apparent death was only explored in The Rise of Skywalker's novelization, which didn't fully explain how Force cloning was possible. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, introduced midichlorians and showed that there was a biological side to the Force. But the mystical aspect of the energy field would be hard for science to replicate. The number of variables demonstrates how challenging Force cloning would be, but fortunately the franchise already teased the perfect explanation. Why Salamiri were the key to cloning Force sensitives in Star Wars Legends? Why Salamiri were the key to successful Force cloning in the Star Wars Legends timeline, and they could also be essential in canon. The creatures were native to the planet Mirkur and were hunted by Force-sensitive Vonskers. So over time, they evolved to repel the Force. Why Salamiri created Force-neutral bubbles in which Force users had no effect. Something Grand Admiral Thrawn used to protect himself against the mad Jedi clone, Joruus C. Baoth. While the Why Salamiri Force bubble didn't get rid of the Force itself, it did prove useful for temporarily limiting its influence. And this made the creatures key to creating Force-sensitive clones. Growing clones too quickly, especially ones that were Force-sensitive, was dangerous because of how the Force affected the mind in all beings. The Kaminoans originally took 10 years to grow successful clones of Jango Fett, and they later struggled with creating a Force-sensitive clone of Starkiller in Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. By placing Y Salamiri in his cloning facility on Mount Tantus, Thrawn could prevent the possibility of madness and grow a massive army in less than a year. C. Baoth was even able to create a Force-sensitive clone called Luke Skywalker, and that's with 2 U's, grown from the hand that Luke lost on Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back. How Star Wars Rebels set up cloning Force sensitives and the Y Salamiri. Although the Y Salamiri ability to repel the Force has not appeared in canon, The creatures themselves were set up in Star Wars Rebels. Thrawn had sculptures of the Ysalamiri in his office, and the way they appeared to stand on his shoulders was a clear nod to Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy. While the sculptures may simply be an Easter egg as well as representing Thrawn's fascination with art, the Ysalamiri could appear in the Ahsoka TV show. There we go. Maybe. Or another future Star Wars project. Perhaps Thrawn eventually found the Ysalamiri on Mirkor just as he did in Legends and will use them to create a clone army or a Force-sensitive clone. Well, Genius Star Wars Theory uses Grogu cloning for accurate Thrawn's story. And I always thought, because nobody knows anything about Grogu, and they're not saying anything, he's old, 50 years old at least, and where did he come from? Why were they trying to get his blood? He must have been I always thought maybe he was a clone, or at the end of the series of season 3 of Mandalorian, I thought they were going to walk in a facility and there were going to be huge facility of nothing but Grogu clones. But I think it kind of twisted to where they were using the blood to create Moff Gideon clones with the Force. So I don't know. Hopefully they'll have a season 4 and they'll explain more of that. Season 4 of The Mandalorian. Considering how many aspects of the Thrawn trilogy we've already been set up in canon, it would also make sense for Ysalamiri to be used. Even though Rebels co-creator Dave Filoni said that he felt the Ysalamiri went against George Lucas's view on the nature of the Force. That doesn't make their appearance impossible. Their ability might be slightly altered, or a new species may be created to serve the Ysalamiri's canon equivalent. Only time will tell whether the Ysalamiri return to Star Wars, but they are currently the franchise's best Force cloning explanation. What are your thoughts? My thoughts would be, if they can bring in, on the Phantom Menace, midichlorians and try to quantify the Force, whereas before, episode 4 through 6, they, consider it was like a mystical force that flew through the universe, but now it's this stuff that's in people's blood that controls the Force. Why not have Ysalamiri who are able to repel it, who can neutralize it? Since you quantified it, the Ysalamiri should be able to negate it. That's all I'm saying, and it would make a lot of sense to use these lizards to help the cloning process, to keep people from going crazy, because they've always talked about Force cloning causing, a lot of people going a little nutso, or a lot nutso. So that's my thought. I really thought this was interesting. It will hopefully be fleshed out a little bit in the Ahsoka series and season 4 of The Mandalorian, if they hopefully decide to do it. I'm looking forward to it. So send me your thoughts and your ideas of what you think of this as compared to what Star Wars canon should be. Should Star Wars canon introduce these, or should they just leave them in Legends? I think Legends are so more full. I consider them more full and interesting than what Disney's done. I think that Disney needs to be more open to the Legends aspect of Star Wars. There are so many wonderful, amazing stories in Legends that would be so beneficial to Disney, whereas now they have this single one lane road of Star Wars going right down the middle of the Star Wars empire, and it's crazy. I mean, because you can't deviate at all out of this. You know, Disney's got this chokehold, and they want canon to be exactly like this, and there's no way that they will allow, you know, the legends in, which I keep saying the legends would be fantastic. You know, bring in Grey Jedi, bring in the Y Salamiri as Force, you know, Force neutral. Bring in Mara Jade with Luke Skywalker. Bring in, it's probably a little late, but, you know, they can do movie magic and bring back Han Solo and Princess Leia, and then have their 3 children, you know, the twins and their other son, and then just don't kill Chewbacca. You can leave that out of canon, you know. Don't use that. So, well, all right. Well, I've rambled enough and gave you my ideas. You know, maybe we should send Jacqueline Kennedy some letters and just try to change her mind, or maybe she can retire. I don't know. Did I say that? Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and may the Force be with you always. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.